What if the biggest reason you can't focus isn't your workload or schedule? What if your brain has simply forgotten what normal attention feels like? Before you're even out of bed, you've checked your phone. Your mind is already reacting before your day has even begun. Within minutes, you're answering messages, scanning emails, watching short videos, and jumping between notifications. By the time you sit down to work, your attention has already been pulled in every direction, leaving your brain tired before the real work starts. Most professionals blame a lack of focus on being busy. But being busy isn't the same as being mentally overloaded. Every notification, refresh, and quick scroll trains your brain to expect constant stimulation, making deep focus harder than ever. I noticed it when reading 10 pages felt difficult, yet scrolling for 30 minutes felt effortless. A task that should have taken 5 minutes stretched into 30 because I kept interrupting myself with things that weren't important. That's when I discovered the idea of a dopamine reset. Not because dopamine is bad, but because my environment was constantly competing for my attention. Instead of trying another productivity hack, I decided to run a simple 7-day experiment. The goal wasn't to remove everything enjoyable. It was to stop feeding my brain endless, effortless rewards so it could become comfortable with slower, more meaningful ones again. That simple difference changed how I approached the entire challenge. For 7 days, social media stayed off my phone. Short-form videos disappeared. Notifications were turned off except for calls, and I stopped checking emails outside work. Most importantly, I kept my phone away whenever I didn't truly need it. I quickly realized I wasn't reaching for my phone because I needed it. I reached for it because it had become automatic. Waiting for water to boil, standing in line, or facing a difficult task all triggered the exact same habit. The first 2 days were uncomfortable. Silence felt strange, and I kept thinking I was missing something important. My hand reached for my pocket before I remembered there was nothing there worth checking. That moment revealed how automatic the habit had become. By noticing those automatic reactions instead of obeying them, something began to change. For the first time in a long while, it felt like I was choosing where my attention went instead of letting every distraction choose for me. By the 3rd day, the urge to check my phone hadn't disappeared, but it had become quieter. Instead of reacting instantly, I could notice the impulse, pause for a moment, and let it pass. That small shift gave me a sense of control I hadn't felt in a long time. Work became easier to start because I wasn't fighting constant distractions before opening my laptop. I stayed with one task longer, finished it faster, and noticed that deep focus wasn't a talent I'd lost. It was a skill I had buried beneath endless interruptions. The biggest surprise wasn't productivity. It was boredom. For the first time in years, I experienced quiet moments without immediately filling them with content. At first it felt uncomfortable, but soon I realized boredom wasn't empty. It was creating space to think. Ideas began appearing during simple moments like making coffee or taking a walk. My brain wasn't overloaded anymore, so it finally had room to connect thoughts naturally. Creativity returned when I stopped consuming something every spare second. My evenings changed too. Instead of ending the day with endless videos and headlines, I gave my mind permission to slow down. Falling asleep became easier, and I woke up feeling calmer instead of mentally exhausted before the day had even started. Constant pressure to know what everyone else was doing slowly disappeared. Without endless updates, comparisons became quieter. My attention felt like it belonged to me again, instead of being borrowed by every app competing for my focus. By the end of the week, my responsibilities hadn't changed. I still had deadlines, meetings, and messages. What changed was my response. I stopped reacting to everything immediately and started deciding what actually deserved my attention. Instead of jumping between several tasks at once, I finished one before beginning another. My days didn't become shorter, but they felt less rushed because my attention wasn't constantly being pulled away from meaningful work. That was the biggest lesson. This wasn't really about dopamine. It was about protecting attention. Your attention is one of the most valuable resources you have because once a moment is gone, you can never get it back. In a world designed to compete for every second of your focus, protecting your attention is essential. A simple 7-day reset won't change your life overnight, but it can help you think more clearly, work more deeply, and live with greater intention. If you want to try this yourself, don't overcomplicate it. Start by removing your biggest source of unnecessary stimulation. Turn off non-essential notifications and keep your phone out of reach whenever you're working on something important. Stop filling every quiet moment with content. Take a short walk without headphones. Eat one meal without a screen. Read a few pages of a book before bed instead of scrolling. Let your mind experience silence without rushing to escape it. Don't expect perfection. Some days you'll slip back into old habits, and that's completely normal. Progress doesn't come from never getting distracted. It comes from noticing those moments and gently bringing your attention back. Every time you resist an unnecessary distraction, you're training your brain to value focus over instant gratification. Those small choices may seem insignificant, but they build stronger habits and a calmer, more intentional mind over time. The goal isn't to remove every enjoyable thing from your life. It's to become more intentional about what deserves your attention. When you stop reacting to everything around you, you regain the freedom to choose your next action. 7 days won't solve every problem, but they can reveal patterns you never noticed before. Awareness is where lasting change begins, and even small improvements in attention can transform the way you work, think, and rest. A dopamine reset isn't about punishment. It's about creating enough mental space to hear your own thoughts again. In a world full of noise, clarity becomes a competitive advantage that affects every part of your life. The professionals who perform at their best aren't always the busiest. They're often the ones who protect their attention, reduce unnecessary distractions, and make room for deep, uninterrupted work when it matters most. If you've been feeling mentally drained, constantly distracted, or unable to focus for long, try this experiment for yourself. You don't need expensive tools or complicated systems, just a willingness to step away from constant stimulation. You may discover that the clarity you've been searching for was never missing. It was simply buried beneath endless distractions. If this video gave you a new perspective, leave a comment below and subscribe for more practical strategies to work smarter and live better.